when we say we want to include youth, then we better be listening. But we should be more than listening. It is that engagement, that intergenerational conversation that we need to have that carries us forward. I think first that we've heard today really is the reality, and we continue to hear about how the geopolitics of today have really widened the gap in terms of trust, even though so much has been gained and that we have all the tools and the resources in our world, they seem not to be shared, they seem not to be as accessible, there seems not to be a sense of urgency and the scale at which things have to happen to make a difference in people's lives. And how do we know that? We produce year after year reports that tell us that we are failing. Reports that tell us that we are not making the goals. We have the Sustainable Development Goals, and they have 2030 to go to. And our report this year tells us that we have only gone 35% of the way. But that's an aggregate figure. It doesn't tell the stories of what is happening across the regions. And so the reality is pretty grim. The stories we tell about the burden of this that falls on women and the less privileged, the stories that tell us about what is happening in our global economy, that when we recovered from COVID, we didn't recover equally. When there is a war in Ukraine, that impact is felt in our food systems, it's felt in our energy systems, we see injustices that we do not know how to get around, whether it is in Gaza today and what we see with starvation, or it is in Sudan where we have inaccessibility to go and meet those who need it most to see another day. And so the reality is really grim. However, for me, the hope is what I heard today, is young people. It is the youth with a very different narrative, with a very different conversation. And the question is whether, in fact, we're going to allow that hope to prosper, whether we're going to allow that to breathe and to give them a chance, not to take the baggage of my generation, but actually to take the energy and the vision, whether it is 2063 or the 2030 agenda, and really move fast with it. And so when I think about the how, for me it is about the intergenerational partnership that we need, that you do have vision and energy from young people who are mastering a new era of technology. But you have the likes of us who've been through it, we've walked those paths. We're a little less slow now, maybe we have short-term memory loss now and again, but we do have wisdom, we do have the experiences, and I think that together this can go so much further on all the agenda we have. Because when I look around the world today, we are not for want of policies, we are not for want of knowing what to do, but we get stuck on the implementation. We get stuck in the environments that we are. Are they enabling enough? Do we have a business environment so that we can actually prosper with entrepreneurs and with business? Do we have an enabling environment where governance itself allows young people to meet their aspirations? Do we have the courage to say no to injustices? And when people say, no, what are you talking about, right to food? We shouldn't even be talking about a right to food. It's in our constitutions. And so therefore, we should be saying, this is not what we want. We should be saying no to gender-based violence, as we just heard now. That our societies and every woman and girl should wake up not to feel fear, not to live in a life where it is dark and fearful and therefore it is a big injustice, and to say no to hunger. Because when you take a person with hunger, you strip away their dignity. And when a person is living a life without dignity, they become vulnerable to everything else that is not so good. And so therefore, I think that this intergenerational conversation and partnership that we need to have is really important. It is also about changing the narrative. I just heard it here. Absolutely right you are. If we continue with the same narrative, we will continue with a Band-Aid. What we have to do is to go back to who it is that we are and be absolutely proud of that, no matter where we come from in this world. That is the richness of our diversity, is that we are very different, we bring different things to the table. And if I look to see some of the conversations I just mentioned to my colleague here, the minister, I was in a situation where we were having a lunch. I mean, I often complain about some lunches because I see the plate looks really nice, and so I call it designer food. It looks really good, it's too small, and I don't feel like I'm eating a meal. But that's because somebody else has said that that's what we should have, and this is their rendition of what a good meal looks like. And it probably is very nutritious, and it looks very nice, but to me, I just want to go back to my rice and my beans and my meat and eat it. Now, I listened around a table when we brought African food to the table, and someone say to us, well, this doesn't look good, and this does smell slightly funny. And these are the kind of things we don't talk about. They're not very diplomatic, they're not nice to hear, but it is a reality that we look down at other people's food. And so I think a healthy respect for what everyone eats, and that we ensure that it is nutritious, and that when the chef said he wants to make a meal, that he can promote what is his, so that we can share it. I think that that's something we ought to take really good notice of, particularly when we go into our schools. And I just came out of a school feeding program here in Addis, and I wonder sometimes who created the menu. What we want is a nutritious meal, but what we also want is a respect for the injera everybody eats here. And to carry that forward with you, and to carry it forward in a nutritious way. So I think the narrative is more than just, who we are, what we are, but it is really, really from the roots, inside out. Every one of us has something to offer. Respect it, share it. We will be a richer world for it. We need genuine partnerships. That two-way handshake, not one that is a hand me up. I know we've had those times, but after 80 years of the United Nations, I think now the handshake needs to be much more genuine. And so I really welcome and applaud that today we have Ethiopia and Italy co-hosting this event. That's, for me, a handshake that's taken from Rome, where we've had this meeting twice, and we come to Africa, and I hope that the next time we will be in Asia, we will be in Latin America. We need handshakes around the world that are equal, respectful, and really talk about what is possible, the solutions to have for us to get further than we have done today, change the paradigm. We need a global economy. We've just come out of Seville, and Seville had a Financing for Development conference, and many of us were there. And that global economy, when I talk about an equal handshake and genuine partnerships, everyone needs to come to these meetings. If we say that this is an international meeting, we don't want Africans talking to Africans. We do that every day. We want us talking as an international family. And today, with the geopolitical tensions, we see people going back into their corners. And that's not going to take us forward. We are a globalized economy, and we are going to remain so. What we need is a more equal and accessible economy, that everyone, not billions, are left out, but everyone has a chance to make their way, to build their nations, and to see their visions. And I think here we will hopefully have those discussions as we go through the next 3 days. So let us dig deep in the conversations we just heard, take those forward. This is a Sunday where we are visiting sites, where we are seeing what Ethiopia has done over the last few years, quietly but with intent, has made a huge difference. And there is still a way to go. But let's actually look at the glass that is some full, and then find what it is that we need to fill that glass around the world. And I think we heard from the people on the table today, the change makers. So for me, I hope that by the end of this conference, what we will have is a call to action that will use the food transformations as a way that we can come together better, go further and deeper, and leave absolutely no one behind by the time we get to 2030 and delivering on the SDGs. Thank you.